you want to lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Earl. As a veteran, and thank all our veterans this week. Roll call, please.
Dan Booker.
Here.
Eric Whittington. Sue Mayberry.
Here.
Danny Loesch.
Here.
Scott Schwab.
Here.
Bonnie Donaldson. Here.
I apologize for, here's my list. Okay, report of standing committees. Didn't have any. Moving on to citizens' comments for agenda matters. None? And correcting and adopting the record of proceedings for 2 meetings? Oh, and a meeting and a work session.
I'll make a motion to adopt the record of proceedings of October 16, 2018.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sue Mayberry, seconded by Scott Schwab. Any discussion?
I just have a few clarifications, and I'll need the help of some of the people that actually made the statement. The police chief had brought up about there was a staggering amount of, well, he had attended an elder abuse seminar or something, and you said there will be a staggering amount of 65 plus seniors in Canal Fulton. What did you mean by that? How? I guess I wasn't following that.
65 and older.
Yeah, the trend in Ohio.
There will be a staggering amount. You mean?
Staggering number of, right?
No, staggering older people.
Oh.
Hey,
go easy on me.
65 plus.
In Canal Fulton.
Age.
It's in Canal Fulton.
In Ohio generally.
Okay, I was just in Ohio generally.
Right.
Okay. And also Mayor Schultz
Yep.
reported there was a failed 50-inch pipe in front of the canoe livery. There has been a band put around, you mean like it was a band put around it?
Yep.
And is fixed?
Yep,
Okay, all right, I was just,
not a Band-Aid.
I
They put a
know.
band around it. Yeah.
and also on page 3, when the mayor, probably 4 or 5 lines down, Schultz stated that the request for qualifications are in, probably should add in the engineer for the
Okay.
engineer, because that was
Yep.
missing, and it just probably should be there for more,
Oh, right here, I see it.
to make it
Yep.
more specific as the qualifications for what. So
Yep.
that was all.
Thank you.
Other than that, unless anybody
Alrighty.
else has any.
Anyone else? Okay, roll call?
Sure.
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Danny Loesch.
Abstain.
Sue Mayberry.
Yes,
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington.
Yes.
And Bonnie Donaldson.
yes. And I'll make a motion to approve the work session minutes of October 29th, 2018.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sue Mayberry, seconded by Dan Booker Jr. Any discussion? Roll call?
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Danny Loesch.
Abstain.
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington.
Yes.
And Sue Mayberry.
Yes.
You weren't here.
Eric wasn't here, he's got to abstain.
Okay, changes the vote to, so it's 4-0.
Well, he just abstained from
Yeah.
them, yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on to report of administrative officers and senior citizens. Talked to Kathy today, Kathy Snyder, and they were having elections today, so kudos to all those people who are volunteering and working at the polling places. It's a 14, 15-hour day, so it's incredible. Huge turnout today, too. They said they had 700 at noon.
I believe it, I saw it.
Yeah.
They were at 1,000 by 5 o'clock.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that's good news. We all need to vote. Community service, Mr. Murphy's on vacation this week, so we're trying to cover for him. That's not easy to do, he does a lot around here. Fire chief?
Thank you, Mayor. I passed out monthly reports of fire department activities. I'm sorry I didn't have them early enough to include the council packet. One of the things I noticed I don't have a title on is this page here. And basically, what that is showing is how many calls are in Canal Fulton and how many calls are in Lawrence Township that we respond to. Also, I'm not sure if everybody's kind of aware of the duties of the fire chief sometimes, but today I attended a quarterly meeting at Akron General, Cleveland Clinic. I think they're starting to go by Cleveland Clinic, Akron General. And it's just about our EMS. We switched medical direction, Akron General from SUMA, and we were continuing with the protocol that we were used to, but this is the new protocol that we're gonna have to get used to right here, so that's one of the things that we're looking at. And a lot of new things that we could be doing. This will be a toolbox kind of thing. Maybe we can just take the things out that we've done in the past, or maybe we might incorporate some more advanced things. And there's some exciting things coming down the line too. As I was at this meeting, they were saying that the cardiac arrest survival in Ohio is very, very small. But there's a project going on where cardiac arrests, and they're referencing Seattle, are up to 60%. The cardiac arrest saves. And so they're looking at bringing some of those type of techniques, whatever they are, to this area, and I'll be looking into that in the future. But a couple other things to let you know. Our pumper should be ready on November 21st for inspection. That means we will go out to North Dakota and we will inspect it before delivery. And I know that Teresa was hoping that we would have that for the Christmas on the Canal, but unfortunately I don't think it will be here timely for that. Also, I would like to get a voice motion by council. We are in the new AFG grant cycle, and we are submitting grants for a vehicle, and it would be another pumper. And just the way things fall, because we don't have delivery of our new pumper, the average age of our vehicles, our pumpers is 26 years of age, so that might be favorable to us at obtaining a vehicle grant. Also, that will be for about $356,000 that we're submitting that for, and the match would be $17,000 should we obtain that. Also, we will be doing a personal protective equipment grant for about approximately $56,000, and our match on that would be approximately $2,600. And a third grant is there's a regional accountability system grant. That's one of the things that it's kind of hard to keep track of firefighters on the fire ground, going different ways and things like that. And unfortunately, some of those get injured or lost or die. And so the accountability systems have come and gone and things like that. But this is an electronic system that will help monitor firefighters on the fire ground. And this is a regional grant with Green. And I believe the cost in that will probably to us be about $1,500. So I would like to get a voice motion from council to go ahead and proceed with those.
All three grants?
All three grants.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to give authority to the fire chief to go forward with the three grants that he's just relayed to council.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sue Mayberry, seconded by Bonnie Donaldson. Any discussion? So actually, it will work to our advantage because we don't have the pumper yet, so when.
The way the rules work is that if it's not in your fleet at the time the grant is filed,
Okay.
then you can include the old vehicle in that
Uh-huh.
grant. But the only downside to that is old engine 5 will have to be destroyed.
Uh-huh.
It can't be returned to any type of service.
So like when I see Tom Hargrove's old Clinton fire truck there, could we auction it off, something like that? Or
My understanding is it has to be destroyed.
Crushed.
There might be something where as long as it's not returned to the availability of firefighting service, that we may not have to destroy it. But I'll have to see that for sure.
All right. Any other questions for Chief? Okay, roll call?
Sue Mayberry.
Yes.
Eric Weddington.
Yes.
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Danny Loesch.
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
And Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Please, any other question? I do have another question about this graph. So these are, so this is the total for January was
Correct.
95 in the city and then 53 calls in the township.
That is correct.
And then the next month, 67, 30, so we're inching over that 60%, really, if we're talking about statistical measures. And that's been pretty steady for the last couple of years, Chief, about 60% of calls are,
I believe that's correct, about
Okay.
50%. Just, it's been running, just a bit under 2/3 of the calls, so
Yeah.
we can upload.
and that has a lot to do with our density of population, right? So 5,500 people squared in. you know,
Density of
in-
population, and I think some of it has to do with, our older community. Some of the things that, Mr. Rouse has detailed in finance reports is that we're an aging community and things like that, yes.
Okay. All righty, thank you very much. Chief Schwartz?
Thank you, Mayor. Just two things. It appears this side of the county is getting hammered on burglaries, and Jackson Township's really getting hit hard, and we've had two. And I talked to Chief Brown, and they had one last night. So just asking all the citizens to be vigilant, and if you see something suspicious, you know, to give us a call. It doesn't matter if you think it's nothing. We want to know about people walking down the street, somebody coming up to your house and ringing the doorbell and saying, hey, have you seen my lost dog, or anything like that, just so we can get it. I mean, tis the season, unfortunately,
Are these home burglaries?
The breaking in.
into the homes. Yeah.
Is there a time of day that's happening?
I don't know what Jackson's are, but ours are nighttime.
Nighttime.
Night.
People are in the house when it's happening, or people are gone?
They're gone,
Okay.
yeah.
And that's how important it is for lighting up street lights, and porch
Absolutely.
lights, post lights, things like that.
Right.
Lighting really deters crime, would you say, Chief?
Absolutely, and my neighbor just got, you know, somebody broke in, and it's just so dark, but, if he had had a light up in there, I think that would've, prevented that, and dogs and alarms and all kinds of different measures you can take. Dogs, I think, are the most, valuable alarm in my book, but, people don't wanna mess with that. Two, with the passage of the budget, I'd like to start working with civil service on the sergeant's position and posting, the list to see who's eligible. And I can keep you, posted on that, who signs up for it, and what we need to do with civil service to get that ball rolling. So I just wanted to update you, that's what I'll be working on.
Okay.
And that's all I have for tonight. Thanks, Mark.
Any questions for Chief Schwartz? All right. Hey, gentlemen, could you move outside there, please? Thank you. I can't function with, sorry. Engineers report?
Yes, I have a report from Engineer Bill Dorman. I'll just read what he gave me, and I'll pass it over to Teresa. I received preliminary score for the water tower project, OPWC funding application. Assisted administration in responding to the scoring. The committee will meet November 15th to determine which project to fund. Also, they finalized reviews of the Elmridge 13 and Elmridge 14 subdivisions and presented to the planning commission. Prepared construction agreements for these projects, which are on tonight's agenda. Received final pay requests for Locust Street relief storm sewer, currently under review. Address questions from engineers working on the Monarch development, finalizing phase 2 of the GIS mapping project, and prepare the Ohio EPA notice of intent permit application for the YMCA grading project.
And at this time, I just want to bring it up, let council know, we had our first round of interviews with the engineering firms and individuals who filled out our request for qualifications. The committee came out with a recommendation to take one company to the next round, and what we want to do is set up another interview. So Scott and Sue and maybe Bill and Mark and I will set up an interview. So I'm going to be in touch with you to schedule a time for us all to sit down and interview that individual company and see what your opinion is. And then from there, council, if we move forward or we go back to another company for a second interview, we'll let you know. Okay. All right. Street department. I think they had a water, issue out on Milan Street today, and, so I don't think they picked up a lot of leaves today, so. The leaves are,
They're blown.
they're blowing,
I
so.
have a question about
Yeah.
that. How often do they pick up the leaves?
They-
And how do we know when they're gonna do
Every
it?
day.
Every
Do
day.
they do it every day?
Yeah, one of the things.
This is new for me, so I
Yeah.
don't know.
One of the other things is that we need to make council aware of, you know, when we lost the solid waste district grant last year, that paid for our leaf disposal. So when we collected those leaves, the joint solid waste district got rid of them for us. And that's fallen on our dime this year. So Mr. Cozy's reached out to them and, tried to see what kind of assistance we can get, but,
So where are we taking them now?
we're, I think the plan is to,
Well, we'll have the containers from Earth and Wood like before, but instead of the solid waste district paying, we have to pay.
yeah,
I met with the solid waste district last week, and, there's just no aid for us. I'm gonna try to get at least their price with Earth and Wood to transport containers, which I think right now actually Earth and Wood gave us a pretty good price, $155 a load. I think Jackson and others are paying a little more than that, but solid waste district is being charged $145 a load, so if I can knock off $10, that's a few thousand bucks we can probably save this year.
and I think, what did we do last year, 19 loads?
It's
More than that? It came to $5,000 or $6,000,
no, it's,
more than that?
yeah,
Okay.
close to 12,000.
All right, so, so what they're looking to do right now, Sue, I think, is to stage them over, beside the water plant. There's a dumpster out there, so they're gonna, you know, when they empty the leaf vac, that's where they're gonna empty them, just as a staging area, then load them into the dumpster and haul them away, okay? But that was bad news for us, so. All righty, let's see if I have anything else on the street department list. Going to, public utilities, and, I don't know if this falls under public utilities or not. I was working on a trash, agreement. Republic Waste approached us about the downtown trash cans. And the current agreement is, they empty those cans for us. So they have one person comes down the street, stops the truck in traffic, gets out, walks over, picks up the liner, throws it in, goes on to the next one. What's happening is the volume's getting too great. If there's liquid in there, they have a 50-pound limit for an individual to lift per their union contract. And so then it turns into a two-person lift. They approached us to ask us if we could do anything about it. And so I approached one local business owner here that has a dumpster to see what his interest would be in allowing Republic to put a dumpster there rather than another carrier. And we're still working on that. But the way it would work is those businesses that are in that block over there would bring the trash from the city containers and throw it in there. And they get their service for free because we're not paying for that dumpster. And that is what Republic Service would do for us, kind of working for them to not make their individual have to empty the cans by themselves. Our street department would be responsible for the other cans though, which don't have near the volume that we have from Ozer's in the coffee shop, so. We're waiting to hear back, cause he's got a lease and, we don't know if he'll be able to get out of the lease. So right now, it's status quo, but I just wanna make council aware of that. That involved the street department. All right, planning and zoning?
There's a zoning code review on November 15th at their meeting.
Give me that date again, Mark.
November 15th,
Okay.
which is next week.
Do we have a time on that?
It's a regular scheduled meeting, I think, 6:30.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. And, on to Finance Director, Mr. Rouse.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two items of clarification for tonight. Ordinance 3918 is up for a vote tonight, and this is the appropriation for the John Deere tractor that the fire department got recently. I think we had approved the purchase order a few meetings ago, but this is the appropriation catching up to it. And then 4118 is a appropriation measure for a month of COG insurance premiums. When I mapped out everything on the health insurance transition a while back, I figured, well, our current insurance expires November 30th. We'll go to the COG. We have 1 month of premium. I built that into the budget amendment we did before. What I failed to consider was that we'll have to issue the check for the January premiums will have to be issued in December, by the end of December, and so I need this second appropriation measure just to make that first payment in 2019. And that's all I have at this time.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Rouse? Moving on to Mr. Cozy.
Yes, Mayor, members of council. First off, we're collaborating with the Stark County Bicycle Club and Friends of Stark Parks to build a bike fixing station over at the Canal Center. Those stations usually have like an air compressor and like little rudimentary tools that are attached to the unit so people can work on their bikes and repair their bikes right there in the park. I've seen them in other parks and they get a lot of use, so it'd be good to have one in our park also. Already talked about Earth and Wood. We got a donation from the Canal Days Committee for boarding of horses. It's the view of the folks. We're running the Canal Boat program, and we believe that moving our horses to Nickajack Farms will give them better care. Plus, I think it's better for the program because Nickajack will work with Dan and Izzy through the winter time, and it's good for the horses, and we'll have a farrier seeing the horses on a regular basis. I think it'd be better for the program, put us more money, and we really didn't have it in the budget. So the Canal Days Committee stepped up with a $4,000 grant to board Izzy and Dan over at Nickajack Farms.
Is it just for the winter?
Well, no, permanently.
Oh, okay.
Well, they gave us money to get us through August of next year. So we'll see if it works, then we'll probably redo that with them. The Canal Days Committee is really focused on the Canal Boat program. They donate money towards the Canal Boat program. They donated money to buy the new horse.
Didn't they,
this year.
didn't they do it like $9 grand?
Yeah,
Doesn't
so
this
the
make
total
$9,000?
$9,000 this year donated to the city for the Canal Boat program, which is very good. I received notification that the Canal Lanes 3 annexation was approved by the county commissioners. Also, just it was alluded to during the work session with the YMCA, but I did talk to Dave Awadi. He's the park manager over Jackson about their restroom. He said the last restroom shelter they built was 2002. It was a restroom shelter combined. That was $200,000. But they're pricing one out right now in the North Park, and I think it has to do with the amphitheater. And I believe they got the similar grant that we got.
They're on phase 2.
Phase 2 of that
right.
same ODNR grant.
So that's
But he explained to me that there's a new law, and I didn't quite catch if it was the state building code or ODNR, but they require 3 restrooms, men's, women's, and family, which the family restrooms are nice because you want to change somebody's diaper, you can do that without having other people in the restroom. So they're kind of nice to have, but it's a requirement. And I don't know if it's because of the grant. I'll find out about that next week also. But they're budgeting between $200,000 and $240,000 just for that restroom right now. That's their budget. So I'll keep talking to him to see how that goes. And that's the thing with us. That's why this collaboration with YMCA. The only reason I was looking at it was to save money. If we can save $100,000 on a restroom, then it makes sense to lease the land instead of give the land. And in something else we didn't really look, it didn't really come up tonight was if we build a new restroom in the park, we gotta run water and sewer to the building too. So, you know, that's another cost that's not factored in. And, I guess, you know, I just wrote something here, it's kind of interesting when I was thinking about it, it's cheaper to cooperate than to duplicate, so, you know, but we'll see. I'll get some more information from Lodi and I'll have it for the next meeting. And, lastly, it looks like there's some people here that were at the, playground back on, October 6th. I talked to Mr. Whittington, I go to the bike shop quite often, and he suggested I prepare a written statement, you know, about the events that happened that day, so I will just read it. At approximately 3 p.m. on Saturday, October 6th, I took my 4-year-old grandson to the St. Hunter Heritage Park. He brought a plastic bat and ball and Nerf football to play with, but I couldn't play with him because I was in a lot of pain due to my recently broken ankle. So I watched him play on the new playground. I sat with my leg elevated on one of the playground park benches. There were about a dozen kids on the playground, ranging in age from about 3 to 10 years old. There were more kids than usual, but I figured it was because the new playground was just installed a couple weeks prior. All 4 of the playground benches were occupied by adults watching the kids. There was also a group of people in the picnic shelter. After about 20 minutes, I noticed a few older boys coming over to the playground from the shelter carrying what looked like large squirt guns. One boy took a defensive position behind a sliding board and fired a projectile from his gun, almost hitting my grandson in the head. The boys proceeded to fire the guns, which I later learned were Nerf guns, at each other while the kids, including preschool-age kids, were running around in the playground. As city manager, I needed to make a decision. Either do nothing and risk one of the younger kids getting hit in the head or the eye with one of the projectiles, or tell the boys to take their guns out of the playground. I decided to tell the boys to take their guns out of the playground area. I stood up and looked at 2 of the boys and told them to take their guns out of the playground area. They ignored me and continued shooting at each other, and I noticed another younger kid almost getting hit with a projectile. Then I yelled, "Hey, get your guns away from the playground." I yelled. Then they complied, they left, and I sat back down and continued watching my grandson. Minutes later, what I assumed were parents of one or more of the kids with the guns came over to me. The woman seemed very upset. She explained to me that her son returned to the shelter in tears because I yelled at him. She told me this was a birthday party. I don't know if I think it's public knowledge. He has autism and doesn't understand why I yelled at him. I told her I had no way of knowing that, and I apologized to her for yelling at him. I told her that we can't have the boys shooting their guns in the playground area with all the little kids playing. She said they just were Nerf guns and didn't see why they couldn't shoot them around the little kids. I told her again that it's not safe to shoot them around the other kids at the playground. That's when the man who was with her told me if I didn't like it, I could leave. I explained to her who I was and that we could call the police and see who would be made to leave. He then walked away, and I explained to the woman that the city has ordinances in place concerning the shooting of projectiles in public places. She went back to the shelter, and I sat back down on the park bench with my leg elevated. About 10 minutes later, a boy who was standing on the platform on the playground shouted to me that a kid was pointing a gun at me. I was sitting sideways on the bench with my leg elevated, so I glanced over my shoulder. There was one of the boys who was shooting a Nerf gun in the playground earlier. He was shouting something about not being allowed to shoot his gun if he wanted to. I turned back around to observe my grandson. It was under the Nerf dart hitting the side of my chest and bouncing in the playground. I sat in disbelief for a moment. I got up, retrieved the Nerf dart, sat back down on the bench and examined it. It was made of a firm foam substance about the same size as a .410 shotgun round. I flicked the dart back towards the kid who had shot it, and he was still standing there. And then I just continued to ignore him, and he continued to shout at me. That's when I noticed my grandson was at the park shelter. He came back with blue lips and tongue, and I asked him what he was doing. He told me that he was thirsty, so one of the other boys said he could have a drink of punch. I continued to watch my grandson at the playground for another 10 minutes or so until it looked like it was going to rain, and then we left. Later, I spoke to the police chief, Schwartz, about the incident. I told him I'd had the park picnic shelter permit pulled, called the woman, and scheduled a meeting to discuss the incident. He told me he thought that would be an appropriate response and that he could handle talking to it. We looked at the city code and decided no rules were broken, even though the chief believed it was wrong for the boy to shoot me. We agreed a good shot, he was. I'm a shooter, so we agreed that shooting anything like a Nerf gun in the playground there is not something that should continue. It was his recommendation the park board look into this. The chief also told me that when his sons shoot their Nerf guns, he requires them to wear eye protection because he knows Nerf guns can cause eye injuries. I asked the city parks and recreation director to pull a permit for October 6th, and she informed me that there were no reservations for the park or shelter on that day. Following week, Chief Schwartz informed me that he had spoken with the woman after she had contacted the city council member about the incident. That's the last I heard of it. October 26th, as I was heading home for vacation, I spoke with the city mayor, and he informed me that he had met with the woman and she wanted an apology. I told the mayor that I had apologized to her that day at the park, but I would apologize again as emotions were high and perhaps she didn't remember that I had already apologized. My goal was not to ruin anybody's birthday. My goal is to ensure the safety of the kids on the playground. And if the woman's here, I apologize for yelling at your son. I do.
I appreciate that. I do, I really appreciate that. I don't know if I'm allowed to speak or.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'm not used to this.
Yeah, go ahead. Chrissy, you wanna introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Christy Jordan. It was my children's birthday party. It was October 6th. Around 3 p.m., my son JJ is autistic, SPD, which is sensory processing disorder, Tourette's, and ADHD. He did come running up to me. He was very distraught when he came running up to me at the park because I didn't hear him telling them, saying anything to him about it. He was very distraught. He told me that he threatened to call the police on him for the Nerf guns, and I went over there because my thing was, come to the adult, not the child. So I went over and spoke with him. I wasn't paying attention if he had his leg up or anything like that, and I knew he did tell me that he needed to have his grandkids there. I was very upset. I wasn't screaming or yelling, he didn't say anything about me like that, but I was not screaming or yelling. I informed him that my son was autistic, and he told me then that, he said, do you know who I am? And I didn't know who he was. And that's when he said that he was city manager, and that upset me even more, because I felt like he was trying to throw around his position with me. And then he told me that he was going to call the police. He didn't say he was gonna call Doug, but he told me he was going to call the police. I contacted Susan and asked her about the ordinance. There was no ordinance against Nerf guns, and I actually have the Nerf guns and the bullets, if anybody would like to see them.
I'd love to.
He told me that it was an ordinance down there, and I couldn't argue it because I didn't know if it was or not. Then from what I understood, from what I was told, through Susan and Doug, that he had called Doug's cell phone personally and said that we were shooting, airsoft.
I
Yes.
just use a general term.
Yeah, airsoft guns down there. And that's an airsoft gun. And these are the bullets for the airsoft gun.
But those were, you weren't using those?
No,
No.
these are what we were using.
Little foam darts.
Yeah, there's some of them that have balls, the foam balls.
It's been a long time.
There's-
Yeah.
There's probably, what do you think,
We
maybe
still have-
50, 60 versions of,
Oh, yes.
Nerf guns?
Oh, if not more, yes,
Yeah.
most definitely. We did not have any of the ball ones down there because those ones, I think they are a little bit harder, and I don't do those ones with my kids.
well, when I play with my grandson, that's the weapon he gets.
Right.
I get the little single shot.
Right, and I mean, it's a typical thing that you play with kids with, and I had been down to Nerf gun birthday parties down there before, and kids shooting them and everything, and, I mean, irregardless, whether it was his kid or not, I still would have offered him, some food. It's a child, that child didn't do nothing wrong. And that kind of, to me, that was almost like a slap in the face after, and I felt like you yelled at me, and then I felt like you lied to Doug, saying that it was a CO2 gun. I thought, you knew the difference between the two of them, and it really, really upset me. And my son JJ, I have to bring him to Doug now, and Doug has to explain to him that it's okay to play with Nerf guns in the yard, because my kids are too afraid to play with them in the yard. They're afraid that mommy or them are gonna get arrested. And from what all of the kids told me, you told the kids that you were going to call the police on them. That's why I
Never said
went
that,
up.
ma'am. I never said that. I'm sorry, but why would there's no reason to tell them. I just said, get your guns off the playground. I yelled the second time.
Well, I do remember talking to you and saying you threatened to call the police on my son, and you
No, I
said,
didn't say
yes,
that.
because they're not allowed to have Nerf guns. So, that was just my thing, and really, that's all, what you just did, that's all I wanted. That's all I wanted, and I want my son to know that it's okay to be a boy, it's okay to play with Nerf guns, and he's also in a sling, he's been in a sling for the last 6 months, he broke his collarbone. And I have pictures of all that, so, and see, you just confirmed it too. So, and that's all it was. He had nightmares for days after that, scared that the police were gonna get called on him, or that mommy was gonna get in trouble for having
Was
Nerf
it
guns.
your kid that shot you?
No,
Or was another kid that did?
No.
Okay, I wasn't sure who it was that shot.
yeah, no, it wasn't him that shot you. It was just, with him being autistic, and SPD means sensory processing disorder, and Tourette's and ADHD, things like that would really, really affect him, and I just felt that you should have come to me or one of the other adults and discussed it with us first.
If I could've walked better, I probably would've done that, but I was not walking through all that.
I appreciate it. But, and you could have even looked at, one of the kids and said, go get your parents now. Even if you would have, my son JJ who spoke with, who was all upset, if you would have said, go get your mom right now, he would have come and got me. So I just, I would never go at somebody else's child like that. I will go to the parent first. And it really upset me, and it caused a whole issue with my son at school the next week. He had nightmares for 3 days. And like I said, Doug has to talk to him now, and let him know that it's okay to play with Nerf guns in the house and everything. I mean, we have a rule. You're not allowed to shoot anybody, especially from the neck up. That's how our rules have always been. We're very careful. The only park I've ever let my kids take the Nerf guns to is the one here. Because I was always been too afraid to. I didn't know, what anybody would say or anything like that. So, that's all I wanted. I just wanted an apology, and if you wouldn't mind, please apologize to my son and let him know that it's okay to play
Gladly
with
do
Nerf
that.
guns.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Is he doing better now, your son?
He's still afraid to play with the Nerf guns in the yard. He's still, he's scared for me to be here tonight. So he's scared that something's going to happen to mom. So, and I told him nothing's gonna happen to me, I'm defending my child. And I will defend my child to the end. So that's all. I appreciate it,
Thank
and I
you,
appreciate
Chrissy.
your apology.
Well, and you know what, you kept the 5-minute rule too, so great job, and that was with my interruptions too, so fantastic, and thank you very much.
And I appreciate you coming and talking to me, and I appreciate it. You were very professional, you were very nice.
Well, I should have been there a week before.
You were nice. I'll leave it there.
You sure it was
Chief?
him?
Yeah.
Right there.
Wow, it's coming out of the cheap seats today too. Alrighty, let's move on then. Parks and Rec, Earl, give us some good news. Oh, did I miss the mayor? Oh, I'm sorry. Earl, I'll let you go and then I'll come back to you.
One thing I've got is the sign is not put back up for the speed limit come down Canal Street. It's still laying into the grass. So our street department did not put the sign back up. I talked to Jeff about it. He said they were supposed to do that.
Okay.
It's been down since they finished their construction up there in the property.
Oh, you say Jeff, that's Jeff Chapinor?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we'll
And
get
the way
after
those
him.
speeders come down that hill, I want that sign back.
Yeah, attaboy, Earl, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
And one other thing we're looking at is upgrading our restrooms, and since there's a new code, I don't know if we wanna put new ones in to fill that code in, or use our old ones and recondition what we have. We'll recondition what we have. I like to put metal doors on. There's a new electronic lock system out there that you can control with a computer. It'll lock itself up at 8 o'clock at night, for example, and open itself up at 6 a.m. And if maintenance needs to be done and it's closed, you got a key you can use, a pass key to get in there, and one key will fit both of them.
yeah, so those aren't heated, right, Earl?
No. they're
Okay,
not
so
heated.
that's why we have to lock them up
Yeah.
and shut them down
Well,
for the winter?
the damage,
Yeah,
mainly the damage.
just
kids
because they're
go down there when-
unsupervised?
Yeah, kids go down there when it's dark, whether there's people there or not, they'll go in there dark and do whatever they do. So those need to be done.
Okay.
I think we'll work on it this coming year. And I'd like to stick in a new bleachers down there for the people to watch the kids play soccer, cause there's more people showing up now than they did last year.
Okay.
Down there, something like that there. And I think, yep.
Hey, did you see the playground equipment? Because I kinda drove by as it was going underwater. Chief Schwartz, I think this was the 5th time we had park closure this year. But the playground equipment's a little elevated now.
Yeah.
And it was like trying to keep its head above water,
Yeah,
so.
but I think it looked good, yesterday or today. Today I was down.
Uh-huh.
It looked good.
It didn't wash out or anything?
I didn't see any washout.
Okay, all right.
Because everything's soft right now, but
Uh-huh.
we'll have to get soaked up a little bit and we'll look at it again and see what it looks like down there.
Yeah, we elevated it 8 inches.
Uh-huh.
Because of that, it makes a difference on Saturday.
It made a difference when I was down
On
there
Saturday,
because I
when the
could
whole
see
park
it.
was flooded, the parking lot was flooded, there were still kids at the playground,
Uh-huh,
so that did work.
yeah.
One last thing I
Yeah.
got, when we took the old Boy Scout building down, we had, wooden fence. The wooden fence is never put back up. I like
Okay.
to have the wood fence put down, extended to the end of the parking lot. Because now it's wide open, if you wanna take a car, truck, motorcycle, you can run right in there just like it's never, there.
Yeah, I've seen a few kids drive their trucks right up.
Yeah,
into the
oh
end.
man, I never thought, you think about opening it up and then for the police to be able to see, kids aren't hiding behind there smoking a joint or something like that.
They do that down by the river.
Just so you're not with them.
No, when I run around the loops, I always see the kids down there.
Alrighty,
Yeah, we get that
No,
fence
I don't
back up
join
there and
them.
help patrol that.
okay.
And, one other thing we're gonna work on is, maybe like, use Heritage Park for example, welcome to Heritage Park. What was I gonna, Heritage Park then have our rules on there, what you can do for events. You need to get a permit for any events that you have here, stuff like that, so people can see it. And that way, things won't happen that shouldn't happen and stuff like that.
That's a good idea.
I think we also need to move some of the, ORC signage regarding, cleaning up after
So,
your dog net.
yeah,
Prior, in a place where it'll be more, where they're seen better, cause
Wasn't Barclay Real's gonna put
just
a
something is
dispenser
needed.
down there with bags?
thought they
full of
did.
garbage?
Well, I don't know if the signage,
yeah, we okayed it. He came to a meeting,
oh, I
he
think,
okayed
yeah, the
it.
bags are there, but I didn't know if this, is there, where is that signage? I know there's one clear over to the right side, is there one closer to the towpath too?
Used to be one there,
Is there signage there?
used to be, I don't know if it's still
Well-
there or not, cause I haven't seen it for a while.
I just saw the one, maybe there is the two, but, cause I don't walk the dog right now, I don't have one, but there for a while, when I would walk my dog, there was stuff all over the place.
And our meetings, the 14th would be the last one we have this year. Next meeting will be in January.
Alright,
Any questions?
Got some good things that you're working on, I believe.
Yeah,
and Earl, thank you for your service to our country
Sure.
as a veteran.
you're welcome, thank you.
To the park board. Alright, I'm gonna go back up to my, bullet point there. Shel Rossi, thank you for all your work at the Veterans Day program. I think it was the best ever. We were done in an hour.
That's cause I talk fast.
Is that what it was? Okay. Well, there was more people there because you spoke too, because I think we could have charged.
There's less people there because I spoke.
All right, we have a transportation meeting next Tuesday at Canal Grill. And of course, I left my flyers in there, if anybody wants one, they're on my desk, but, it's, we want public input. It's down at Canal Grill, and I think it's free appetizers. It's at 6:30, and what we wanna do is talk about transportation, about getting from point A to point B in the city of Canal Fulton. Where do you wanna travel easy, safely, and conveniently? And, so we would love your input.
This is
And,
what day?
Tuesday, the 13th, 6:30, Canal Grill, and, I don't know, Shel, could you look either on that room outside or on my desk, and they're flyers from, I think at EDG or something like that. If you could find those, I'd greatly appreciate it, and I'll keep talking while she's looking.
Are they on the copier?
I think I took them off.
Took 'em off.
They might be on my desk. Ah, there you go. If you would pass those out.
Yep.
I think more of you than I already do. Alright,
Yeah, the meeting is, we got the transportation planning grant. That's what this meeting is, how to spend those funds.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's really important to get people there. We're hoping for 40 people to show up. Okay. And, also, Chief Durkee and I and our spouses have opened up, along with 3 other families, our houses for, the Christmas Parade of Homes, December 8th. And, those tickets are available at City Hall, and see Teresa. And then, I wanted to bring council up to speed. One of the young men who, we interviewed, when we did our last civil service test for the utility worker, and, with retirements and illness and things like that, he is still interested. He's a landscaper, so he's gonna be off in the wintertime. But I wanted to reach out to him and let him know we are still interested, and he is still interested in us, and ask him if he could hold on till March 1st. The civil service test was given, I think, in April when we certified the test. We have 1 year. And so at that time, we're looking at a little less than 2 months until our superintendent retires. So we wanted to see if council would be okay at that time, and maybe Mr. Rouse can speak to it, but if we could bring him on board March 1st, and he'd have basically a little less than 2 months to train.
Is he licensed or not? He will get his license when he is hired, or he will work toward a license, cause you said he's a landscaper.
He has background in electrical work also. I think he's being hired, was it a position C or something like that, Mark?
Yeah, he'd be an operator C.
Operator
Operator
C.
C in the utilities department?
Yeah. I think it is utility, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So he would be replacing George. George is retiring, and then we hope to have a progression and create an opening there. So
He'd be replacing,
essentially,
Well, George retires.
not George.
He would be promoted, and he'd be
Right.
coming at the bottom.
yeah.
And he's qualified.
Yeah, he passed civil service test.
All right,
He got- yeah.
all right, all right.
Been through the civil service process, interview process, and this gentleman was ranked number 2. We hired the one that was ranked number 1 earlier in the year, Chris Kerr. This is Nick Torrio. He's number 2 on the list, and if he's still available, we'd like to hire him. You're thinking.
March first.
March 1st,
Yeah, March.
yeah. And that would, so Mr. Rouse can speak to that if you have any questions about filling in the gap and hiring an extra employee at that time. Do I need a voice motion or anything like that to do that, or, just tell him, hang
I
on
mean,
and wait for us?
Would we wanna tell him like now?
We can
I-
plan for it then, yeah. If that's our plan, and he can plan for that, that way he won't be looking for other jobs. if he
So
doesn't
nothing
come
might
with it.
change here that would jeopardize that? I mean, do we know, I mean, are we gonna,
We have a date from our superintendent.
right,
So, we haven't had that
I'm
up
just
until this
wondering
point.
if we're
Yeah, there's no
jumping.
rush,
Yeah.
yeah, there's no rush.
I'm just
Okay.
wondering if it's,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
doing something that we may wish we had, I mean, I'm not
Okay.
saying not to, but
Okay.
maybe we're too quick on it, I don't know.
Okay, all right.
I don't know.
I'll bring it
That's
up
just my
again.
opinion, that's
Yeah.
not,
We'll bring it up after the first of the year.
that probably would be the best thing to do.
Cool, good idea. Alrighty, let's see, I don't know if I need a, motion from council to appoint, Brian Ross, as a member of the HPC. He would fill, Rick's,
Rick's place, yeah.
place there. He is interested in doing it, and so I don't know what the legislative
Mhm.
process is to
Mhm.
appoint somebody.
Motion on
Just voice motion?
Yeah.
Alright,
I make a motion that you appoint Brian Ross to the HPC.
Second.
okay, we have a motion by Sue Mayberry, second by Dan Booker Jr. Any discussion? Roll call?
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Danny Loesch.
Yes.
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington.
Yes.
Sue Mayberry.
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Thank you. Hicks property, the structures are down. They have to bring in some dirt. I talked to the contractor, Mr. Wallace, and he said he's done. But they wanna bring in some dirt and, fill it in so we don't have that big drop off that we have right now. So, I don't know, does he have certain number of days to get that, 60 days to get that completed, right, Scott?
Well, actually, it's being done through private contracting, so I'm really not concerned about that. I guess Hicks is paying for it.
Mhm.
You know, I thought we were gonna get stuck with the bill, but we're not.
Well, there's an unsafe condition there right now with the building foundation, there was a building there, now it's gone, there's a drop off, so
Right.
gotta backfill the dirt to, we only have kids playing and then falling off the edge of the building's pad, so. I don't know, is there a deadline?
Not that I'm aware of.
I thought it was, he had 30 days to get a contract and then he had 60 days to have
to
the
raise the
work
building,
complete.
which he's
Okay.
done, so I would say we're in a 60-day window for him to complete the job.
Could he be contacted and
Um,
told that there's
I've-
a hazard?
Yeah, and that's what I've done through his contractor.
Alright.
And so, I will continue to follow up with that.
We know where we can get some dirt.
Where's that?
You know where it's at.
Uh-huh.
There's a mountain on Orange Street that needs to be.
Locust Street, yeah, yeah, alright. Mr. Cozy, we're still working on that traffic study for, Locust Street.
I forwarded to Mr. Shama, I
Okay.
haven't heard back, so.
Alright. And, speaking of, the Dollar General store, we kinda told them, we're gonna cut the grass. We tried to work with them. The manager on the local level is not getting any sort, kind of support from her corporate. And this is a new model for dollar stores, because typically they rent their space, and so they're not, I guess, very good at, maintaining it when they own it, but
We're gonna cut their grass?
we're gonna cut them, their grass, and they're gonna pay dearly for it. So we're gonna charge them a $100 administrative fee, we're gonna hire a contractor to cut the grass, and that contractor's gonna, probably have to mow it 2 or 3 times. It's just like we do with any other property, that, you know, typically, we have residents that we have to go in and mow their grass, because,
They're not taking care of their own?
they're not, literally, drive by there.
It's really not.
It's
the
I know
dollar
the other day,
store.
Yeah, so, anyways, just to let council know, we're gonna get it mowed, so, and they're gonna pay for it. So, and, apologize here, those were the easy ones. Now I got two, well, this one's pretty easy. Charter review coming up on 2020, and, I think a lot of the same suspects that were involved, hopefully they'll wanna be involved again. Mr. Felmuth, I'm looking at you, for the charter review. It's our 10-year anniversary, and, we need to, look at our charter. So,
I'd like to be a part of that too.
yep, all right, thank you, Dan.
How many people do you have on it?
I have it in my notes someplace, Bonnie, but I think we had, John Workman was on it before, Scott did it before. Scott, you remember who else was there with you?
They're still alive?
Boy, that's a legacy.
Johnny Workman, Don Schwinneman, myself,
That was going back to 2000, because in
Well,
2000.
actually, we did another one.
Well, they didn't do anything in 10, all they did was voted not to do anything,
Yeah,
right?
we submitted possible changes, but the commission didn't feel it warranted
Yeah.
doing it, so
Well,
nothing happened, it
well,
just stayed the same.
If you can track those down, because the number one thing for me is where it says the village of Canal Fulton, and that is throughout our charter,
Right,
and it's a
right,
city,
it's- right.
so, but we have to open it up to change that, so.
Right,
Okay. All right, so, we'll be working on that and set up some meetings in 2000. That wasn't too bad. And now for my favorite topic, trees. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not trees, alley vacation. So we had the planning commission meeting, And they made a recommendation. Scott, do you remember what that was? Cause they, at first their proposal was that we, vacate the alley if all of the residents who are involved, I think there's 6 or 7 of them,
Agreed to it.
agree to it. And then they changed that, now it's 51% of them. If they, so what the planning commission recommended to us was that we go to the property owners and tell them it's our desire to vacate this alley, and we'll do it if 51% of those 6 or 7 people agree to it. So Mr. Cozy drafted some legislation, or not, he didn't draft the legislation, he copied it. This is, do we have copies for everybody, Mark?
I just had a couple sheets I had, but I can pass it around.
Is
I
that
only have
503
2 here.
or something?
It's a section, ORC section 723, in
723.
the Ohio Revised Code.
Yeah. And this is
The
about,
Ohio Revised Code.
yeah, which
Oh.
gives us the authority to vacate or narrow streets without petition. Cause normally,
Oh.
what happens, council, is normally the property owners come to us and say, hey, I want you to vacate this alley. And so then we look at it and study it. This is one of those examples where I'm bringing it to council's attention to make this part of our policy moving forward, that we look to vacate paper alleys for at least this year and then the following year, and then hopefully the following year, to get rid of these paper alleys. They're
What ORC number is that again?
72305,
Okay.
okay? And so that is what I'm bringing to council, and
You want us to review it?
I would like you to review it, okay? And that's really what it is, Sue, it's not just this tree, it's just moving forward. We have these paper alleys that we own, but we don't have any use for. We've talked to our police department, we've talked to the fire department, they have no need, don't see any need for them. And like I said, this is what I would like to do moving forward. One alley this year, another alley next year, another alley after that, so.
I'd like to know which ones they are.
I think before I give you an answer, this is, is this one, no, it's between Berger and Maine, gosh, forget the name of it. So it's parallel to Cherry Street, up across the tracks.
Not Bailey or, not
It
something.
might be
No, I don't
I mean, is there
remember.
anything on these alleys, or is just nothing?
trees,
I mean,
I
'cause
don't
there
know.
are some that.
Baylor,
could
I think it's Baylor.
Baylor.
Baylor Court, thank you. Okay, so this one's Baylor Court, and,
It used
there
to
was,
be an alley for a horse and buggy to go down
yeah,
to the garage, to the barns behind the homes at the time when they had
Yeah.
horse and buggy back in the day.
right,
You just gotta make sure that it's not something that our street and utility people are gonna need access to, because people can, I think, build up right to
right,
the center line.
right. And that's what would happen, is basically when
And
you
once you-
vacate, each property owner gets half the
Right.
land, okay?
But if you ever have to get back in there,
Yeah, they,
So we have to see a list so we could actually personally go out and view it. to see.
yeah, I think that would be great
the
for
thing
you
to do.
to do, and, the list is actually probably gonna come, that's why I didn't wanna answer, because the street department kinda has their list of,
And the
Right.
fire and the police have to have a say, right?
well, they have to have a say,
Well, this particular one did come up at staff meeting. I mean, these are alleys that are not paved. You wouldn't even know
Right.
they existed,
Right.
except for the fact they exist on paper.
But if they're used for EMS or something,
Or, yeah, no.
right, and we wouldn't touch those if
No.
that was the case, but, and that's why I say, so we'll look at this one this year, and then, I'll talk to the street department to see what their number one priority is after this year, but I do know that they have at least 2 on their, after this one, 2
Yeah, I'd
others,
just like to see
Yeah.
which ones they are.
okay? All right,
so about those trees,
Trees,
speaking of trees, I'm gonna meet with a local, handyman, who is, we're gonna talk Thursday morning, if anybody wants to join me for a cup of coffee over at the coffee shop, about, the design of the planters. What we would hope is, you know, looking at different materials. If you make them out of concrete, the drawback is when you go to get those trees out of there, I don't know how realistic, where if we went with a wooden structure, so that we could basically open up the ball root, the roots of the tree, and then kind of slide it out that way, I think that might be a better way to go. So, but I will tell you this, since we cut down that group of trees, which was 10, I think.
Who's we?
The city.
I knew nothing about it.
Yeah, the
Okay.
city. I guess, yeah. Which is you, so you is we,
I
so.
didn't know about it.
Yeah, alright, so, we cut down trees. Prior to that, we had 18 trees that we had taken down over the history since they were planted and we were Tree City, USA. So 18 trees prior to that had been taken down and not replaced. If you wanna know where they are, you just walk around the sidewalks and you see where there's a difference between, the concretes and the brickwork, where, they kind of poured concrete to look like bricks, where they took trees out. There was 18 of them.
You and Eric walked around, right?
Yep, Eric and I, and, since that time, I've been contacted by 3 property owners down there, who requested that we cut down the trees in front of their property, just because of the maintenance, the roots are growing into the foundation at
Yeah.
Rosers. There's,
The ones in front of the warehouse,
The
they're
ones in-
dropping fruit all over people's cars and staining everything up.
yeah, and then, someone on South Canal Street, shared with me that they were having
I
problems.
just wondered what you two
Yeah.
came
Well,
up
what we
with.
thought about doing was, you want me to finish up for you real quick?
Sure, Eric,
Okay. Thanks, Joe.
you're welcome.
So what we're gonna do is, the mayor said it costs about $4,500 a year to replace concrete and sand it down and fix it, roughly. So we're gonna make all these boxes, and we're gonna place these boxes along the street, so it still has to look pretty down here. Now, this is, of course, all pending on all of us voting that we can okay this. And then I have a whole list of 40 different trees that can survive in zones 2 all the way through zone 6. So, since we're gonna put them in a box, they have to be a zone 2 tree, which is gonna
Yeah.
limit that number
Cool,
because
right.
the roots aren't gonna get the geothermal heat.
Right.
So then what we'll do is we'll put a 10 to 15-year plan in place to where instead of killing all the trees that are in the boxes, we're gonna take the trees out of the boxes all at once and replant them in different parks around town, and then replant newer, smaller ones. So that way we constantly have clean trees growing down the sides of the street so that the historic area looks very nice
Good idea.
for the business owners
No,
and for the people. And then also we don't kill any more trees, we can just keep planting them like over at the new park or the old park or on the trails or,
feel good.
yeah, so we'll do something like that. So I have a list of, like I said, of 40 different trees, which is gonna be narrowed down to several because of the boxes, but they'll be clean trees that aren't
Ginkgo are
gonna.
the best ones to plant.
Ginkgos are good, but that's a zone 5 or 6 tree. If we put them in
Because
a box,
it's-
that's
right.
gonna change
Okay.
everything.
Right.
Well, sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan.
Yep.
Gotta have a plan.
I
And then we
understand it
need
too.
money, and Mr. Rouse has
Hey,
plenty
I'm
of
gonna
money.
have- It's all gonna be in writing when I'm
And I
done,
understand it too.
so.
Alrighty,
Good job.
I think that's all I have, so I'll move on to, third reading. Teresa, oh, no, whoa, Mr. Feldman, Law Director.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I did get the revised lease proposals, but again, I want to point out, I can't move forward on this until I get feedback from council on what you want to do in these various proposals, okay? And then I can negotiate, but until you tell me what you want, okay, can't do it, okay, so.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, certainly, Mr. Mayor.
The YMCA facility, the building itself, what the YMCA is proposing that we do is for cost savings, for safety, for convenience, that the restrooms be built inside of the Y with the funds from the grant. That being the only section of the Y structure that would be funded with grant monies, how does that work with a future potential sale of the facility, should it change hands? How does that portion that's fused together, how does that affect that? I'm just curious what kind of,
Could we put something in the lease to say that if they do close shop and they rent it to somebody else, that they pay whatever it costs to build
Well,
the
I'm just-
restrooms to us?
I-
The current lease agreement that they're proposing, they're reserving the right to destroy the whole
Right.
facility.
Right.
Okay, that's in there, and this is what I'm talking about, where I need direction, okay, from council on what terms you want in the lease, okay?
How do we
And the
know
answer to
what
your
to-
question is,
I don't
the
wanna-
current proposal, on their lease is they have the right, if they don't make it, they can knock the whole building down and they lose the restroom. So-
or what else? We have to buy the building? Is
I think we have first right of refusal.
The first right of refusal is we buy the facility and we support it financially.
And once
I'm
again, Sue,
just-
and that becomes what if and speculation, but
But it's,
it's a possibility, so typically, I would think that what
That's
we
one of
would
those-
buy it for would be like $1, is what we would buy it for, but,
who'd sell it, we buy it for $1?
yeah.
Somebody-
There wouldn't be any taxes owed on it, people buy property all the time for the back taxes.
We don't have to resolve this,
Sell it to
Yeah.
us for a
we
buck.
don't have to resolve this, I'm
But
just,
I'll pay you for it.
I didn't bring this up for a resolution, that to me is part of the big question that we were talking about, and I just wanted guidance from our law director on that.
Yep.
And if he can't tell me all of it right now because he needs to
Right.
read some stuff, that's fine, but I wanted to plant that seed, that's all.
Good job, Sue. Alright, so, and that's where we're struggling, Scott,
And that's
is,
all I have.
just from the standpoint of, we're trying to look at these terms and conditions, and, we got Mr. Booker here, who's an attorney. I have some background in real estate, but not drafting contracts and things like that, so we just don't wanna make a mistake. We wanna protect our interest and our right to represent our citizens the best we can. So sometimes we feel like, we need an attorney there for us.
A real attorney, not me.
But, I mean, it's like a brain surgeon, or, a hemorrhoid doctor, they,
I think that's what we do
Wait, which
need
one am
here.
I? Hold on.
alright, but anyways, so I digress, but that's what,
You know what? Just tell me what you want.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
That's what I'm saying.
alright.
Get that, Joe.
And if it's a bad idea, you'll tell us.
That'll be tomorrow's paper.
Alright,
I'm supposed to know.
alright, here we go. Thank you very much, and we're moving on, Teresa, third readings.
Ordinance 3918.
Excuse me, let's
Ordinance amending
get order.
ordinance 3117 and providing for changes to previously authorized appropriations.
Motion to approve ordinance 3918.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Dan Booker, second by Scott Schwab. Any discussion? Roll call?
Bonnie Valentin.
Yes.
Sue Mayberry.
Yes,
Eric Whittington.
Yes.
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Danny Loesch.
Yes.
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Ordinance 4018, an ordinance amending ordinance 3117 and providing for changes to previously authorized appropriations.
Motion to pass ordinance 4018.
Don't everybody get in line.
Yeah. Is it gonna die for lack of a second?
Which one is this for?
This is for $75,000 to put into the fund, right, Mr. Rouse? You wanna speak to it?
the money's in the fund, it's do you wanna appropriate it so that we can do some of the upfront park planning
Yeah.
work and stuff?
Do we know what it's being used for
Uh,
exactly?
first thing I'm gonna use it for is to, contract with Mr. Knickerbocker to get us drawings to go out to bid with, or get estimates on the restroom. So if the Y is telling us the restrooms cost $113,000, I think
Well,
it's.
why don't you, before we waste money on spending it on the restroom, why don't we figure out what we're gonna do with the restroom with the Y first and use it towards the street and the parking lot?
That's what I'm wondering, if we
which
should
know
just
we're
table
already
this
gonna-
for,
And I think it should be,
Yeah, the park master plan is probably the next thing we'll spend the money on.
Yeah.
'Cause we need that to apply, to finish our application with ODNR.
but this says park prep on here. What does that mean, park
Well,
prep?
Some of the dirt work that was done, that we don't have to pay for now, so we didn't go through the bidding process, and they paid for it, so.
Well, there's no second on this. If this dies, what happens, Mr. Felmuth?
We're gonna bring it up again, Rich.
Or Bill put some money back into that fund that it came out of,
I
right?
think you've already asked the finance director what his opinion is on this.
The money's there, we already at the finance committee approved this to take place. I guess if you don't pass it, then it just means that we
And that's
can't
getting
do any planning work for the project whatsoever.
And this is getting replaced with the grant money?
Yes.
Eventually, yes.
Yeah.
This,
So-
it'll be, the grant would reimburse us for
Yeah.
these costs.
So the park grant, we're trying to get a second proposal. Our initial proposal was what, Mark, 25,000, 23,000,
For the master plan?
master plan?
Yeah, I'm gonna get a second quote, so I don't wanna,
Right, but I mean,
Yeah.
so in order for us to do a master plan,
We have nothing in place, we haven't decided what we're doing yet,
well, there's a planning process about our park, and in order to complete our application to ODNR for reimbursement, they need to see what we plan to do.
don't they have to know what we're gonna do and actually do part of it before they reimburse us?
They need to know what we plan to do. And then once they approve that, then we can begin doing things, getting reimbursed. And so I need
I mean, it has
at
to be done
least,
for them to reimburse us, right?
yeah.
Okay.
I had to finish the application. Because of the way the grant was applied for through the state, now the ODNR's come back, okay, now we need these things completed before we actually complete the application to get reimbursed, for our expenses. So I'd like, and plus it'd be nice to have a master plan in place, that way you can see where things
Yeah,
go.
you
and,
have to have a plan, I agree. This
You know,
is
Yeah.
strictly for the
where
park
walking
and the
track's
park
gonna
only.
go, you know.
The money is already there.
So you're saying this is going towards the park master plan?
correct. That would be the first thing we'd spend money
Because we
on.
may not lay things out in the manner that we're talking about right now.
I know, that's why I don't
There
think
may
that
not
you
be,
You still need a plan.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Because-
you can change your plan once you, then you resubmit. But-
Exactly. We're spending
money on a plan though, that,
Right.
That we're gonna get reimbursed.
So maybe we should just agree to table it and talk about it.
Well,
that's what I think.
So I'm hearing a lot of confusion on this thing here, and I just rather I don't wanna lose the opportunity to have the ability to plan.
how much is a master plan
At the
gonna
next meeting.
cost?
I do have a quote here for 24,000. But I'm waiting I'm waiting on a second one, that's why I didn't wanna, now the other
next
person wants to
one's
go
coming
to
in at
see some number and
23.9.
shoot at it, so it's okay, here we go,
I'm not comfortable with it, but, I mean, I know the park plan would be, is necessary, I understand that.
Then how you gonna pay for it?
Well, once
And
we
get
decide what we're
reimbursed.
doing.
The money's in the account, we pass the legislation, and then we turn in a bill, and we get our $25,000 back, whatever it costs, but we get a plan. You need a plan.
This is to design the whole plan, whether it takes a couple months, this is all planning for what. this
$2,006,
project's gonna look like,
hold
right?
that drawing up over there, Scott, that's what we paid $20,000 for in 2006.
We have, Mr. Cozy has one quote, he's waiting on a second quote, correct?
Correct.
And these two businesses are who we've, contacted to provide this quote for us?
We contacted one.
We've got the
contacted
one.
another
I got, what I was gonna do is, this is the group that did the first plan. I'm basically gonna redact all the numbers on this and give it to one of the firms that we interviewed, so.
And how soon would they be able to provide us with the,
Hopefully in 2 weeks, I'm hoping.
I mean, get the other bid, but how soon, once the bid has been awarded to whoever's price is better, would the park plan be created and provided for us to look at?
Well, no, you'd be part of the planning process.
I would.
We will have public meetings to get public input on the new park, and it'll be a couple month process, so the plan wouldn't be done until probably January of next year, February. We'll put the plan together, so by that time, we'll pretty much know where the YMCA stands, hopefully, and but see, the YMCA is not part of this, we already.
See, that's what I'm saying, the YMCA is not part of this.
Not part of this.
So
The only
we're
one-
going to
yeah.
have input on what the park looks like, but the
It's
YMCA,
Basically, you know, the way.
we've gotta ignore that section, sorry. We've gotta
It's
ignore
just
that.
gonna say YMCA in that section, is what it's gonna, yeah. But it actually have a pretty picture of the entire park with, you know, if the Y's gonna go in, where it's gonna go, where your road, your parking lot's gonna be.
If the Y doesn't go there, we're gonna build a special big restroom for Bonnie, right there.
Well,
Well, having said that, I'll second the motion. I would vote.
Okay, so we have a motion by Scott Schwab, seconded by Danny Loesch. Any discussion? Roll call.
Eric Langton,
Yes.
Bonnie Johnson,
No.
Sue Mayberry,
Yes.
Scott Schwab,
Yes.
Dan Booker,
Yes.
Danny Loesch.
Yes.
now, the thing is, the two-step, I mean, just cause you approve this money here, I still have to come back to city council to approve the proposal for the master plan, so there's another opportunity to go.
And then we'll be a part of the plan of where
Yes,
the money gets allocated.
Yes.
And nothing else is gonna touch that 75,000.
Not that I'm aware of.
All right.
Well, and that's
Unless the mayor
where,
has something planned, you know,
that's where, I don't know how you can, make a decision about whether to put the restroom inside the Y or outside the Y until you have an idea of counting the cost of what it would cost to put it outside someplace.
And also the pros and cons of leasing versus giving them the section of land, that's something we need to think about.
Right, but I need to go spend money with an architect to get drawings, so that we can get an idea of what, if Mark's telling us 150, they're saying 200,000, whatever the cost of the restrooms are gonna be, we need to know, count the
So you want
cost.
some of this money to go to a architect for the restrooms?
Yeah, and I don't know how you cannot do that until you get some drawings, of what a restroom would cost. Because in my opinion, if the restroom comes back
we
at,
can come back with Greens and Jacksons and show them to you, and you already have prices.
I don't live in Green and Jackson, and I don't know what they built, I
I
wanna
don't know,
know.
I'll go out and talk to them.
Yeah.
They'll have a problem.
Yeah, and, you know, I wanna spend that money conservatively, and if you're in some of those other communities, they're more affluent and they don't think anything about
I think
what.
the concern is whether you're gonna spend the $75,000 on a plan for a bathroom, that's not what we're saying here.
Well, still has to
The
be
plan for the
purchased
whole
order.
park. So I just wanted, I know Sue was a question on that,
Yeah.
and just to be clear, it's not specifically for just,
Yeah,
we're talking
Because we
about
don't even
a
know if
walk
the
route
bathroom's
all
gonna be in the
around
Y.
the park and all, everything else goes along with this, so,
okay.
just needed to be clear.
Alright, so I need some direction, do you want, we just voted to put $75,000 set aside to spend money for a master plan. And then are you giving me the direction to go get estimates and drawings on restrooms? Which I think you almost have to have if you're gonna make a
Well,
decision.
Formal,
Get
formal,
a proposal, get a price from the architect and bring
Right.
it back to county, yeah,
Yeah.
why not?
That shouldn't cost anything,
Yeah.
just do
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, you need drawings.
Maybe he can give us an estimate of what it would cost based on, cause we already have or I can, Yeah, I can give them another set of drawings and have them look
Yeah.
at it.
But he worked very well for us on the Milan Street property compared to what other architects were going to charge. Every time you need a new drawing, you pay $3,000-4,000 for a drawing. He gave us a flat fee and ended up doing, I think, 7 or 8 drawings for us for a flat fee that came out to be about $1,500 a piece, so. Moving on, Teresa, I'm sorry.
Ordinance 4118, an ordinance amending ordinance 3117 and providing for changes to previously authorized appropriations.
Motion to pass ordinance 4118.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sue Mayberry, second by Dan Booker Jr. Any discussion? Roll call?
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Danny Loesch.
Yes.
Sue Mayberry.
Yes.
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington. Second readings, ordinance 4218, an ordinance amending ordinance 1985, employee pay periods and repealing any ordinances in conflict therewith. Ordinance 4318, an ordinance amending ordinance 3117 and providing for changes to previously authorized appropriations, transfers, and advances. First readings, ordinance 4418, an ordinance amending ordinance 3117 and providing for changes to previously authorized appropriations. Ordinance 4518, an ordinance to authorize appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Canal Fulton, County of Stark, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019. Resolution 2118, a resolution establishing the budget for the city of Canal Fulton, County of Stark, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019. Ordinance 4618, an ordinance providing for the distribution of water revenues and repealing any ordinance. I think that's supposed to say in conflict therewith, sorry. Ordinance 4718, an ordinance amending ordinance 3117 and providing for changes to previously authorized appropriations. Ordinance 4818, an ordinance amending ordinance 2718, rates of pay for non-bargaining employees and repealing any ordinances in conflict therewith. Ordinance 4918, an ordinance by the council of the city of Canal Fulton, Ohio to adopt a credit card policy. Resolution 2218, a resolution by the council of the city of Canal Fulton, Ohio to enter into a construction and performance agreement with Elm Ridge Property Holding LLC for public improvements and installments for Elm Ridge 14 development. Resolution 2318, a resolution by the council of the city of Canal Fulton, Ohio to enter into a construction and performance agreement with Shalma Properties Incorporated for public improvements and installments for Elm Ridge 13 development.
Purchase orders, purchase order number 11,891 to American Legal Publishing Company in the amount of $6,550 for codifying the ordinances.
I make a motion to pass PO 11891 to American Legal Publishing in the amount of $6,550.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sue Mayberry, second by Dan Booker Jr. Any discussion? Roll call?
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington.
Yes.
Sue Mayberry.
Yes.
Danny Loesch.
Yes.
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Purchase order number 11,895 to Huntington Public Capital Corp. in the amount of $128,082.12 for the lease payment for the 2018 dump truck, ambulance, and fire engine.
Motion to pass purchase order 11895 to Huntington Public Cap Corp. in the amount of $128,082.12 for lease payment for the 2018 dump truck, ambulance, and fire engine.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sue Mayberry, seconded by Bonnie Donaldson. Any discussion? Roll call?
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Danny Loesch.
Yes.
Sue Mayberry.
Yes.
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington.
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Purchase order, is that the right number?
I looked at it
Yeah.
today when I was writing it up in it, yeah.
118,104 to Creative Microsystems, Inc. in the amount of $12,346.75 for the 2019 software maintenance agreement. This is our accounting, payroll, and utility billing software.
Motion to approve PO 118104 to Creative Microsystems Inc. in the amount of $12,346.75.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Dan Booker Jr., seconded by Bonnie Donaldson. Any discussion?
That's a blanket, right? Covered for the year.
Yes, it'll cover for the whole year.
Any other questions? Discussion? Roll call?
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Danny Loesch.
Yes.
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington.
Yes.
And Sue Mayberry.
Yes.
Bills?
No bills to report.
That's good. Old new, other business. Yes, Earl?
I've had some senior citizens come to me and complain about not having a utility box for them to drop their utility bills in or taxes in when it comes that time. And I just wonder when it's gonna be put back up.
We have
That's
no
right.
plan to put it back up. Yeah.
We probably should.
Um,
There's a lot of people that can't make it down here during work hours. and-
I've had people ask me that, I told them to drop it off in the front box.
Because some of these seniors can't afford a computer. Some are lucky to, with their pensions, they can't afford that, so they would like to have one put back up. So there's some of them that are on crutches, they can't get out of the car, and that's what I'm told.
yeah. One of the problems is we don't own that property anymore.
Right outside here where the cars
Yeah.
parked, probably put one right there real close at the evening, you drive through, cause nobody's parked there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, Earl, and I know it's popular and people like that, especially for people who don't, do the computer thing and pay online, but, it led to a lot of problems. So this alleyway really isn't conducive to two-way traffic. It's not made for that. We have people, employees who are forced to back out of parking spaces into an alley, and I don't know, chief, oh, he left. How convenient, but, I don't know.
Smart one.
Yeah. But, yeah, so there's a lot of issues there, and this doesn't even begin to, go into the surface of, under the surface of people who make claims that, it's unfortunate, and, so people claim they put it in there, and it's not in there, and that's unfortunate for the people who are getting abused. There's a lot of safety concerns.
Yeah, I even had one person tell me Massillon has it, why can't we have it?
Yeah,
And we're trying to compare ourselves with other cities from rates and stuff, so
yeah.
I guess that's why they brought it up.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad you did. That reminds me, under old, new, other business, the solid waste that we have out there for the tree branches and things, out there, the internet world, Cliff, let them know that we don't want your leaves out there. We pick up your leaves. We're getting, leaves that people are putting in, brown plastic bags. Yeah, and, so that's, chances are that's probably people from Lawrence Township, which,
I
yeah.
had two people come in today and told me that they were told that they had to put their leaves in paper bags, and I told them no. And set them out by their current, I said, if you put them in paper bags and you put them outside, your trash person is gonna pick them up and take them to the trash, and you don't want that.
Yeah.
So,
So maybe we should stop selling bags.
who sells bags?
I don't know, did they stop in to get bags?
Well, the plastic trash bags,
Paper bag.
Oh.
you're talking about the paper.
Paper bags.
They were told they had to put their leaves in paper
Well,
If
bags.
they
that's
live
what
in
the
Lawrence
township
Township,
does.
they
The
do.
township
That's
does.
right.
Lawrence Township does that,
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, I specifically asked them,
We
when
don't
we're on
accept
bench.
leaves,
Okay.
period.
right,
Loose, bag,
right. So, thank you, Earl.
Yeah.
All right, Madam President,
no report.
citizens' comments? Thank you, Christie, for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, motion to adjourn?
I-
Whoa. Citizens' comments.
Jeremy?
5-minute dialogue, Jeremy?
Yes, sir.
You practiced?
Uh-huh.
All right, well, hold on, let me get the clock going here, buddy. You know what, I better just do it.
Jeremy Graber, 334 East Cherry Street, Canal Fulton. I have another issue regarding the conduct of our city administration that I wanted to address. I've got some copies of some emails I'd like to pass out.
Jeremy, may I see it?
Thank you.
I'm not running the clock on you while you're passing it out.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah, that's no problem.
You're so kind, Jen.
Well, it's hard, and like, when council members ask you questions, it kind of interrupts your presentation, so we'll just kinda let you go through, and then if we have questions, we'll ask.
I appreciate it.
Do you wanna read here, Mr. Wayne?
I got something I'd like to read to City Council. In August of 2017, our city manager acted in an official manner on city time, on a city email, and used the local newspaper and mass email people in the community, including local business owners, religious organizations, and administrators in the school system where my child attends school, attempting to smear me and my community page that I created back in 2010. I feel that this was an arbitrary and unethical move. The city manager tried to tie hateful graffiti that was done in the park on picnic tables down at St. Helena Park to my community page and myself. It was confirmed by the chief of police at the September 2017 city council meeting that there was no connection to this page or the internet as far as that vandalism. The city administration has done nothing to correct the unfounded information that was sent out by the city manager. I and another city council candidate at the time personally met with the mayor per his request regarding this matter and to discuss the action that the city manager took. The outcome of the meeting accomplished nothing, and I was never given an apology from city administration, or no retraction was given to correct the unfounded information that was sent out to the countless people in the community and the school administration. You had no right to do this, yes, sir?
I did send a retraction later, after I found out. After I gathered more information about what pools closed meant. I didn't know at the time.
Yeah, I know, Mark, but you sent this out. You sent this out within hours. And if you look at the email that was sent out, it contains hateful, everybody. Business owners, religious organizations.
Everybody.
You had no right to do this. This was an arbitrary move. People have a legal constitutional right to take a stance for or against any issue and not be smeared by people in power. What I'm seeking from this is I want an official retraction, and I want an official apology from this city administration, and I want it emailed to everybody in that distribution list.
Well, I will send you a copy of the email that I sent. After we did an investigation, I realized that there was more going on than just, you know, the Nazi video and everything that happened all at the same time. And I realized the term "pools closed" is like a tag word used by neo-Nazi supremacist organizations. I had no idea what that meant. And I did send a retraction saying that I did an investigation, I didn't think it was related, and I sent an email out after that, so.
To everybody that you sent it to originally?
Yeah.
I never got that email. In the chain of emails I requested in the public records request, I didn't see that email. That wasn't in there.
It was in there, and I'll produce it, and I'll give it to city council. It's all dated, it's all in the file, I can find it, so.
But I wanna make sure that the people in this community know. I'm owed an apology, Ms. Donaldson's owed an apology, and this community's owed an apology for sending that garbage out. There was no connection whatsoever. You had no information as to what that vandalism was. Within 3 hours of you receiving that original email from the Parks Department, you just blasted out to the whole community with hateful images and hateful speech. My child attends school here, and you sent it to the superintendent of the schools. So I want a copy of that email, and I want an apology from the city administration, and this just doesn't need to happen here. People are done with this.
Hey, Jeremy, I see that on page 2, under, it says Sue, name one other socially accessible. I must have responded to this, but I don't see my response, but my name's on here. I guess maybe.
There was a whole thick packet
There's
of
a
emails.
page missing here. My name's on here. I just don't see, and then down the bottom it says from Susan Mayberry, so I must have responded, but it's not on here.
Just as a background, there was a
So
Nazi,
Fonda?
there was a Nazi Hitler video posted on Voice of Canal Fulton, thinking city council is plotting to bill to YMCA and sock it to the taxpayers without them knowing it. And within days of that post, on the picnic table was swastikas and then the term pools closed. Well, okay.
Okay, a citizen
Yeah.
did that, and I'm not
Well, I
rehashing
don't know, I
this.
don't know who did that.
A citizen did
So,
it.
but then yeah, I wrote that, I own that, okay. But then.
Well, I appreciate that, but I want an apology, Mr. Cozy.
I am sorry for printing it, Bonnie.
I want it sent out to the people you distributed that to all over this community, people who I consider my friends. You had no right to do this, but you did it, and this was allowed to stand. I mean, I met with you,
Well,
Mayor Schultz, and nothing
The
happened.
unfortunate thing was when that Nazi hate video was posted.
No, we're not going through that
You
again.
liked it, and, I got screenshots of different people who liked the video and thought it was funny
It
when,
was funny.
you know, but it's.
You had no
it's
right to
important.
smear us. You had no right to smear
I do have
anybody.
a right to state my opinion.
Not
You
to
have no right to
Very, very,
email the
very poor
community
taste. Very
as
poor
a
taste.
city manager, as a member of the city administration. It was unethical,
Very.
and I want something done about it. I understand some of you weren't on council when this happened. I know one of you sat by helplessly while this went on, and I don't know about the rest of you. It was unethical, it was uncalled for, and people around here do not need to be smeared if they rightfully take a stance for or against an issue. I want it retracted. I want to make sure everybody on that distribution list has an official apology from somebody in the city administration. People around here aren't having that anymore. People have a right to have a voice and not to be smeared by those in power. That was abuse of your position. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy.
You did good, 8 minutes, but that's what happens when you get interrupted. You had about 3 minutes interruption there, so,
Thank
and
you.
good dialogue. Thank you very much. All right. Any other questions? Comments? All right. Move to adjourn. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Mayor, I was just wondering when my son was gonna get the
You wanted it right for me?
no, I was wondering when my son was gonna get the
Oh, your son? Whatever.
I have hearing
Yeah.
problems.
Would you be more comfortable if we come to, or he comes to your house, or he comes down here? Okay, or at the park, you think would, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
So you guys wanna work that schedule out?
yeah.
So you get to miss all the action in Clinton. Is it as hot as the action in Clinton? Do they talk about it the next